So the Houston Rockets just lost to the Lakers in Game 6 of the first round, and it was in embarrassing fashion. The Rockets started off the series going down 3-0, and obviously there's never been a 3-0 comeback in the history of the NBA playoffs. So as soon as this series was 3-0, it was over. It was a wrap. And to add insult to injury, the Rockets lost to the Lakers without Luka Doncic for the entire series and without Austin Reeves for the majority of the series. And this Rockets team barely even put up a fight. But even without Kevin Durant, this Rockets team should have handled this Lakers team, but they instead got handled by a 41-year-old LeBron and the Lakers role players. But this Rockets team rebuilt for basically 4 straight seasons after they lost in the 2020 bubble and traded away James Harden and Russell Westbrook to begin rebuilding, and they waited years to finally get back into this position, and they got spanked. 1 season ago, this team was the 2nd seed and was looking like one of the better young cores in the NBA, and they ended up making a huge move to push forward and rush their timeline by trading for a 37-year-old Kevin Durant to try and get them over the hump. And it did not work whatsoever. After last season, when the Rockets finished as the 2nd seed, it was looking like all the Rockets needed was sort of one final piece. And what they really needed was a closer. Obviously, they had Jalen Green as kind of their best scorer last season, but what they really needed was a guy who can consistently close games for them. And that was why Kevin Durant was brought in, because this was looking like a core that if they would continue developing and adding a elite talent like Kevin Durant, that would push them over the edge and be able to compete with the teams like the Thunder and the Spurs and the top teams of the Western Conference. And it failed. Now, I do want to say that I want to cut the Rockets a little bit of slack because Kevin Durant missed a lot of this series, and it's unfortunate because right before the playoffs started, it came out that he had a knee injury, that it was like a freak thing that he just banged knees with somebody during practice, and that's why he missed majority of this series. And also, they've been without their point guard Fred VanVleet for the entire season, which was unfortunate because preseason he tore his ACL. And also, this team lost Steven Adams like around halfway through the season. So this team was not 100%, but also the Lakers were nowhere near 100%. And arguably the players that the Lakers were missing in Luka and Austin Reeves, 2 of their top 3 players missed majority of the series. And the Rockets still didn't really put up that much of a fight. And honestly, to me, this was not surprising whatsoever. What we saw from the Rockets in the playoffs was the accumulation of all of the problems that we saw in the regular season all coming together in a playoff series and really coming to haunt the Rockets. So I am going to take just a little bit of a victory lap right now, because in this space of creating content about sports, when you have a take that is wrong, people in the comments or people that watch the videos will let you know. They will keep the receipts of when you were wrong, and they will shove it in your face, which I respect. It's part of it, and I enjoy the discussions that people bring when you're right or you're wrong. But my biggest hit of the NBA season on this channel was that the Rockets were going to flame out, and most likely in the first round. I had a video from about 2 months ago talking about all of the flaws of the Houston Rockets that we've seen in the regular season, and it came to haunt them in the playoffs. I also was very critical of this Rockets team after the trade deadline because they had a glaring need at the point guard position without Fred VanVleet, and they did not address that position at all at the trade deadline. Guys like Kobe White, guys like Ayo Dosunmu, these guys that were guards that were available at the trade deadline, the Rockets seems like they didn't even try and pursue them at all. They just stood pat at the deadline. They were one of the few teams that made no moves at the trade deadline. And that glaring need of a point guard came back to haunt this team in the playoffs because all of the players on the Rockets were put in positions where they were not set up for success. Amen Thompson is one of my personal favorite players in the NBA. If you watch this channel consistently, you know that the Thompson twins, I am 100% pro Thompson twins. You will rarely hear bad talks about the Thompson twins on this channel. But Amen Thompson is not a point guard, and he's been playing point guard the entire season, and it just hasn't worked out. He's not in a position right now that plays to his strengths. Alperen Şengün, as good of a playmaker as he is at the center position, you can make the argument that he's a top 3 passer at the center position in the league. He should not be the number 1 playmaker on a playoff level team. He just should not be. Reed Sheppard, I really like Reed Sheppard. He is an absolute bucket when he's on. Reed Sheppard should not be tasked with being one of the main ball handlers and one of the main playmakers on a playoff contending team. And I think that him being in that position is what led to him being so inefficient and looking kind of like a deer in headlights at moments, just because he was overtasked in the series. And a lot of that comes back to them not having a true point guard. And the main moment, arguably the biggest moment of this entire series, was Game 3. The Rockets fell apart with 30 seconds to go. Because with 30 seconds to go in Game 3, the Rockets were up by 6 when Jabari Smith Jr. turned the ball over, which led to Marcus Smart free throws. And then the very next possession, Reed Sheppard gets stripped of the ball by LeBron, which leads to a LeBron three-pointer to tie the game. The Rockets blew a 6-point lead with 30 seconds to go by turning the ball over twice. And that was arguably the biggest moment of this series, because let's say the Rockets close out that game. Now you're down 2-1. Now you go into Game 4 at home. If you win that game, which they ended up winning Game 4, you then go into Game 5 tied 2-2. So now if you win Game 5 in our hypothetical scenario, you're up 3-2 in this series. That 30-second stretch in Game 3 is what lost the Rockets this series. And what it was their young players being inexperienced and being put in positions where they were not supposed to be in because of a lack of a point guard, and also because Kevin Durant wasn't playing. Now, I'm not going to harp on Kevin Durant because he was injured. I'm not going to be one of those guys that questions his character or his motive or anything like that, because I just think that that's corny. And when people who talk about sports question an injury as if it's like the player's choice not to play, I just think that's corny, and I don't think it's productive for sports conversations or whatever. But it is very unfortunate that Kevin Durant was not available in this moment, because it did lead to a lot of these flaws being shown in the Rockets game. And also a lot of the main flaws that we've seen with this Rockets team in the regular season were shown. Like Amen Thompson's lack of jump shooting. Amen Thompson throughout his career so far is just not a consistent jump shooter. And a lot of times he doesn't even look at the rim to try and shoot when he's on the perimeter. So we knew going into the playoffs that that was going to end up being exploited. And it was. Alperen Şengün being a really bad interior defender, just being not good at guarding the pick and roll, being hunted in a lot of pick and roll situations. That came to haunt this team also. Reed Sheppard also being a horrible perimeter defender. A lot of it is because of his size. I don't think it's an effort thing with Reed Sheppard. I see him, he's a little bit scrappy, and he does give effort on the defensive side of the ball. But him being so small is just so easy for a team like the Lakers to try and exploit, and they did that. And I forgot who it was. It might have been Jared Vanderbilt that was just like, yeah, one of our game plans was attack Reed Sheppard. And that's what they did in this series. And all of this youth and all of this young talent that when you look at on paper, it looks like the Rockets have a very, very, very good young core with Amen Thompson, Alperen Şengün, Reed Sheppard, Jabari, Tari Eason, all of this young core of players that when you look at, you're like, that's a really good young core that the Rockets have. They all had flaws that were exposed in this playoff series. And again, some of it is because Kevin Durant wasn't there. Some of it is because of Fred VanVleet wasn't there. But when you take into consideration that this Rockets team has spent 4 or 5 years building this young core to be ready to compete, and then adding a guy like a Kevin Durant in the offseason, this young core was supposed to be ready to compete right now. And they're just not ready. They're just not ready. And we've seen that before in the regular season. We've seen their inability to close games. When Kevin Durant was playing, all the other team had to do was send 2 at Kevin Durant, trap Kevin Durant, make sure he gets the ball out of his hands, and force Amen Thompson to beat you. Force Al P to beat you in clutch situations. And that's why this team was like 500 in clutch games during the regular season. And as a team that wants to compete in the playoffs, that is no recipe for success at all. And that's why I kind of saw this coming. I really saw this coming. Now, don't get me wrong. I didn't think it was going to be in embarrassing fashion like it was. They honestly should have beaten this Lakers team. And the Lakers had really, really good series out of guys like Marcus Smart, was looking like the Boston Celtics version of himself again in this playoff series. DeAndre Ayton arguably had the best 6-game stretch of his entire season. This entire year, people have done nothing but complain and harp on DeAndre Ayton's effort and his attitude and his willingness to buy in on this Lakers team, the Rockets allowed him to have the best 6-game stretch of his season, arguably. Rui Hachimura had a great series. The Rockets just were not ready for this moment. This young core that they have spent years developing and drafting with high draft picks were not ready. So now the obvious question moving forward with the Rockets is, what does this team do? Because I have seen a lot of people very down on Kevin Durant right now because this team needed him and he wasn't there. He was not available, which again, I'm not going to hold that against Kevin Durant. I'm just saying I've seen a lot of people questioning his character, especially after a lot of the burner stuff. After a lot of the burner stuff came out, there's no way that a lot of these young players' confidence was probably not at its highest after a guy that a lot of these players look up to, like a Kevin Durant, trashing them allegedly on social media, which seems to not be allegedly. It seems like that was real, legit comments coming directly from Kevin Durant. I've seen a lot of people throwing out that this team should trade Kevin Durant. I've seen Nuggets trades drawn up after the Nuggets got eliminated also, that maybe that deal works out. I personally would not do that. I think that you should at least run it back one more year with KD. I've seen a lot of people questioning if Amen Thompson or Alperen Şengün should get traded. I'm also going to say no to that too. I don't think that this team should make any drastic in-the-moment decisions like that after this playoff run. I would give it one more year. You get Fred VanVleet back healthy after a full year recovered from his ACL. You get Fred VanVleet back in the lineup. That takes pressure off of guys like Amen Thompson offensively, guys like Reed Sheppard. Then Reed Sheppard would be in a position to where he comes off of the bench to where he could just be that microwave scorer off the bench. And that's kind of the best role for Reed Sheppard right now in his young NBA career. You then put Alperen in a situation where he doesn't have to be the guy who is taking the ball up the court, who is controlling a lot of the offensive flow for the Rockets. You give Amen Thompson the ability to not have so much offensive weight on his shoulders. And then that allows him to be even more of an energetic defender that you need Thompson to be. And also, I don't think a lot of people really understood how much of an impact Steven Adams was on this team. Because when Steven Adams was in the rotation, the main identity of this Rockets team was rebounding. We're going to out-rebound you offensively and defensively, and we're going to dominate the rebound so much that we're just going to get way more shot attempts than you are. And when Steven Adams went out and he was out for the season, a lot of that identity went away because Clint Capella was solid playing backup 5 for this team, but I just think that the strong presence that Steven Adams brings for this team, I think was more impactful than what Clint Capella was doing. The only situation where I think that Amen Thompson or Alp should be traded is if you get a good deal on the Giannis sweepstakes. If the Bucks really are trying to move Giannis, I think the Rockets have one of the better packages that they can offer, centered around Şengün, and you'd probably have to throw another young player in there. Maybe you sign and trade Tari because Tari is going to be a restricted free agent this offseason. So maybe you sign Tari Eason and you trade him to the Bucks along with Giannis, and whatever draft capital gets the deal done. I think I'm at the point where I would rather trade Alperen Şengün than Amen Thompson. If it was like the Bucks were like, you pick. You either give me Amen Thompson or you give me Alp. I'm sending Alp before I'm trading away Amen Thompson. Maybe I have a little bit of bias involved in that because, again, I am a really big fan of both Thompson twins. I love their games. I think Amen Thompson has a much better ceiling and can impact winning much more than Alp does because, to be honest, I don't know how much more of a ceiling we're going to see out of Alperen Şengün. I think this might be like pretty close to the best version of him that we're going to see. And if this is the best version of Şengün, I would rather trade that away than the possible potential of Amen Thompson developing further offensively. Because if Amen Thompson develops more offensively, we're looking at a legitimate all-NBA caliber player. But I would like to know what you guys think about that. Would you guys rather trade away Amen Thompson or Alperen Şengün in a hypothetical Giannis trade? Let me know in the comments. But after that all being said, I would still run it back. I would run this back with a starting lineup of Fred VanVleet, Amen Thompson, Kevin Durant, Jabari Smith Jr., and Alperen Şengün next season. And then off the bench, you're still going to have, maybe you re-sign Tari, maybe the market out there in free agency isn't that much and you're able to match an offer sheet from whatever team offers Tari. So you bring back Tari. Off the bench, you then have Reed Shepherd, Josh Okogie. I need to check what his contract is. I would like to see Josh Okogie back next season. So you have Reed Shepherd, Josh Okogie, Tari Eason, Steven Adams as your backup 5. And I guess at the 4, you have Dorian Finney-Smith. I don't know. I mean, you can kind of figure that out as time goes on. But I would run it back with this Rockets team. That's kind of what the point I was trying to make is. And then if that doesn't work out, then you move forward and you figure out what's next for there after next season. But what I want you guys to do is I want you guys to go down below in the comments and let me know what you think the Rockets should do going forward. Should they trade Kevin Durant? Should they just get rid of that headache and the burner allegations and all of that drama and stuff that comes with Kevin Durant? Do you think they should trade Al P for a star? Or do you think they should just go full rebuild and blow it up? I don't know. You guys let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Subscribe to Yanker Hoops. I appreciate every single subscriber that hits that subscribe button. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm out of here.